it was late last year, and I'd gotten up about a bit before 4 o'clock, 4 a.m. in the morning, and I was sitting on the back doorstep out here, looking straight east, and there was these three, they looked to be about that big, sort of dull yellow lights. They weren't real bright. There was one up there, and there was one there, and one there in a pyramid configuration. And there was a big black cloud behind it. It wasn't a thundercloud with breaks in it, was a big sheet of black cloud. And there was no stars because of the cloud. And I thought, that's strange. And now I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking to myself, now if I take my eyes off that, it's going to disappear. And I'd no sooner said that, and it just disappeared.
Yeah.
And that was it.
It's like you knew,
Yeah, like they were reading my mind or something.
Yeah, or you were reading theirs or something.
Something,
Yeah, some kind of communication.
So that's the first, what I would call a real sighting of a UFO for me.
Yep.
It may have not been.
And that was only recent, wasn't it?
Only recent, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was about, sometime in November, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have written the times and date, or the date down, but I didn't.
Well, today's February the 4th, so we're only going back a couple of months.
A couple of months.
Yeah.
And I can take you out the back and show you the range of hills of where it was over the top of. And it was straight above a couple of tall poplar trees. And I sort of thought, well, I knew it was something different. Anyway, the next morning I got up and the cloud was gone. I thought, oh, maybe it was the morning star rising, but the morning star wouldn't be, you know, there and there like that.
Yeah. And
quite a distance apart. Anyway, I got up, and at 4 o'clock in the morning, star hadn't even come over the horizon. So it definitely wasn't that.
No.
And there was no break in the cloud. You know, you could tell. Yeah. So, but it was funny that I'm sitting there watching. I must have been watching it for a good half minute. And I thought, now if I take my eye off this thing, it's going to disappear. And that's exactly what it was.
Yep, up.
And it was about, see the higher level of cloud?
Yep.
There now,
Yep.
Not the one straight above the poplars, the higher level, but the one a bit higher again.
Yep.
Might have been just at the bottom of that, straight over the top of the poplar tree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that gives me an idea, and so it's pretty far from home here. Well, it's at the, yeah.
And apparently it's those hills that people here have seen UFOs going along, just above the hills.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an old fellow over here, I don't know how many years ago, but he saw them travelling along above those hills out there.
Electric heat had been generated on it.
Right.
Just wanted to see it. There's another here.
Yep.
That's part of it. That's part of it. Yes, that's part of the first one. But look, that was a couple of weeks afterwards and the grass had grown. When it first happened,
Right.
the circle was quite clear because there hadn't been much rain about. But after that we had some falls, and that was part of the inside of it where it was caught as if it had blasted off.
Yep. Okay.
That's just down there. That's part of how the circle looked once it got older. That just that way.
Yep.
But I've got better ones of other sightings.
Yep.
Clock by is.
Right, sorry, tell me about that one again, because
Well,
I
there were
switched
two
my camera
of
on.
these, 18 feet apart.
Right.
And they were roughly, I think, 7 feet in diameter. Yes, there it is.
Yeah, it's written there.
7 feet in diameter.
Right.
And they were 18 feet apart. Now, in later years, I read a book in earlier, prior to that, I read a book of George Adamski's. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah, I have heard of him, yeah.
Well, he described how there's landing marks put down 7 feet in diameter,
Right.
and 18 feet apart. And strangely enough, we said to each other, my husband and I, that is more than coincidence, which
Yeah.
it was. They had to be what he said. So anyhow, we saw those, and since then, we had this one, look, that's the vehicle, and that's the big knife.
So you can show the size. It's a good idea.
Yes, heaps of them. Try to find more here for you. You can't see this one so well. That was about 65 feet in diameter, and that was up in the high country.
Okay.
Here's these, might have some. But there's another. Trying to find 3 or 4 special ones. We had one particular, I hope I can find it. One particular one, my husband had a little bull calf. It was a pet, and he disappeared. And the pack of people.
Well, a bull calf, that's like a male calf?
Mm-hmm.
That's a male calf, is it?
Yes, a male calf.
Right, yeah.
And it was about so high.
And it's
it was very
disappeared.
friendly. He disappeared. And they went looking for him, and in the paddock where he disappeared, they found this huge circle and another circle just in front. So we concluded, you won't laugh because you believe in
Oh,
this.
I'm not going to laugh at this.
We conclude he was taken by levitation. We never ever found hide nor hair of him. And the neighbours said no, they hadn't seen him.
Well, you'd expect if it had died, you'd at least
Oh,
find
we'd have found his
the
carcass.
body or the skeleton or something.
Neighbours are honest and good, and they wouldn't have done anything to him. But I just thought that's another one near the thing.
Yep.
So that gives you an idea, this one, of how really big the circles are right around the... I'm sorry they're not any clearer.
No, they're beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I've got it. Yep. Yep.
That's another one.
Yep.
Oh, here's the one I was looking for. Now, this is the one, this was quite a big one.
Yep.
And that's the one where the calf disappeared.
Yep.
And it
I
had
can see that, yep.
Yes, and it had a smaller one in front of it. But of course we never have found the calf. Now there are people, at that shows the 3 people there.
Yeah.
That shows you how big
Yeah. They're pretty big circles, aren't they?
they
Well,
are.
I mean,
circle.
you know, compared to the vehicle.
Yes, you can have that one if you like. That's the second one. That's in 1973.
Can I have that?
Yes, you can have
Thank you
that one.
very much. There.
That's 7 feet in diameter. And there were 2 of them 18 feet apart. You can write it down if you want
Yes,
to.
yeah, yep.
I had 2 or 3 of that. Now here,
Okay, so we've got that and that. Okay, so these are the matching set, 18
the
feet
matching
apart.
set.
Yep. Okay,
Mhm.
thanks.
and the big one, I'm sorry it wasn't clear,
That's
but
okay.
we didn't have a camera or a film
Yeah.
when we first found it. So we had to wait. By the time we did, the horse was grown up a bit. Now, this is a phenomenon that circles like this, the business 18 feet apart. We found quite a few of them. They then turn this funny different green.
To the rest of the grass.
Yes,
oh,
and you
so
see
there's
they're
one
18
there and one
feet
there.
apart.
Yeah.
So that's different too.
Wow.
Look, it's just, see, here's another lot we found there and there.
Okay.
Totally
Oh, is that a different one to this one?
They're different.
It's not the same ones.
No,
Wow. But
we
again,
found quite a few
there's
of
2
them.
again, isn't there?
Yes,
So they seem to travel in pairs.
they do.
Yeah.
Well, they actually have, if I had a pen and a pencil, I can draw it for you. They have 3 of the...
Okay.
Now, here are those little balls. Now, when they come down, that one I take it didn't. They just dropped the 2 here, and they then go anti-clockwise when they drop down these balls.
Right.
And
have
then,
you
of course,
have you seen these drop? Have you?
I haven't seen them drop, but I'm getting on the book of George Adamski's, and
Oh, right. But
he
they go
describes them exactly as
the
we have
same.
seen them there.
Yeah. Yep.
So we conclude, and plus remember I told you about my little granddaughter.
Yeah, that's
She saw
right.
the one,
Yeah.
but she saw the one above the stables, and it was shaped exactly like this, and all around the edges there's flashing lights, different colours. And she said, and she didn't even know about UFOs.
Yeah.
Because
How
we
old
decided
was she, sorry?
she would have been about, she'd be 15 in April, so she would have been about, I suppose, 11
Right.
at the time.
Yeah.
She was sensible to well.
Yeah.
Her father was up at university, and he went up there as a RILA director. And when they went up to pick him up, they stopped at a motel, and he said to her next morning, and what did my girl do while Dad was away? She said, Dad, I had the most wonderful experience. She said, outside my window, Megan, that was her friend,
Yeah.
we saw this big shining light above the table with shining lights all around it. And then she said, Dad, as we watched, it came down over the cow yard, and she said it was there for 2 or 3 minutes, all these lights, and then she said, Dad, it split in half, and one went that way and one shot the other. So I can draw how she saw that.
Yep.
She said, I'll go and get my coloured pencils. And she drew everything from the beginning, right through it split. It was like that, and then it just split up and went different ways, like that. You know, you often have no doubt you've had the experience with people saying there are no such things as UFOs. There are, and it is covered up by all our governments, unfortunately.
This is what everyone's been saying, yeah.
And you know that too, I
Yeah,
think.
I do.
They will not admit it. Now, if I were to write in or even to ring them and contact them and say, I saw a peculiar thing, we've seen heaps of them. If I had done that, they would have said to me, Mrs. Carter, what you saw was a weather balloon.
They always do that. They always do that, yeah.
Now, we're very well versed with the night sky at our place, like a lot of other people are. And I often think, and we had people say to us once, our younger son, Don, they said, but do you really believe in UFOs? And we said, no, we don't believe in them. We know they exist.
Yeah.
And Don always says, I think it's an insult to my intelligence, Mum, if people don't believe me when I say I have seen UFOs.
Yeah, it's not worth talking to them.
It's ridiculous,
It's not,
isn't it?
because it upsets you,
Yes,
and then you don't need that, you know.
you don't.
No.
Yet I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't worry what people think about me talking about UFOs.
yeah.
I think actually I might have a bit of a reputation for being an eccentric person, but I'm what I term a very sensible eccentric person.
Yeah.
And what I see, I know I see. I
Yeah.
don't make it up. I'm not a fanciful person. But look, here in this little book, I brought this in, I thought it might fascinate you.
Yeah.
There are quite a few things I've put down, little sightings. I don't know, could you read my writing?
I think I probably can.
I don't know whether you can or not.
Yeah.
But they're all data and sightings that different people have had, and I think we've had. I think it started on
So
that
you've got
page.
like
It just goes
quite a
over
few
that far.
pages.
But
Oh,
I
it's
have a
just-
scrapbook that thick at home.
Right.
I'm sorry I didn't bring it, but I'll see you again, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But have a read of that.
Alrighty. So I'll try and read it, okay? On the 26th of September, and if I get it wrong, you can correct me, okay? It says Flying Saucer Reports 1973. On the 26th of September 1973, David, Don and Burns saw a large orange light, stationary but in the east from Bullock Park, is it?
Bullock Paddock.
Bullock Paddock.
Bullock Paddock.
David, does it say David, is it?
David, yes.
Something, it thought it was Jupiter, but it was above in the something of the sky by something at the time approximately 10:30. Is it AM or PM?
It would be PM.
I think it says PM, right. When we topped the rise, it had gone on the morning of the 29th of September 73. Is it Pip and Don, is it?
Pip, yes.
And Don came to the park
paddock.
Came to the paddock, is it?
Let me have a look at that, Peter.
Park, is it Regis? Park Regis?
Park Regis, that's the hotel in Sydney.
Oh, I know the Park Regis.
I do,
so-
yes, we
yeah, I
stay
know.
there.
All right,
That's
now I'm
right.
with you. I was
But
just a
no.
bit confused, yeah. I know the Park Regis, yeah.
Yes, came to the Park Regis, and that's what that was.
Okay.
You said it was Park.
Yeah, Park Regis. And Pip said, Mum, you know the light you saw, 6 or 7 people in Narrabri on the night of the 26th of September saw a UFO to from something to base, was it? To the
We
east.
just- well, I
From
read
west
it.
to east. I've got it. From west to east, yeah.
From west to east.
Okay. Something on our way at about the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you've got the same one question mark, which
Yes.
I would say is very likely be the same one.
It would.
Right, yeah. Okay. Howard and Kerry saw an orange light above our something gate.
Above our gate, our
Uh,
boundary gate.
Boundary
isn't it?
gate it is, yeah. On Sunday the 14th of October 73. At approximately, question mark, you couldn't remember the
No,
time?
couldn't remember the
All right,
time.
yeah. Kerry said it appeared to be like this in shape and that they've just drawn the...
Yes, and that's much like I've drawn here.
Yeah,
That type
same
of
as that
thing.
one there, yep, right. Okay. On Monday the 15th of October, 1973 again, isn't it? 73, yep.
Yes,
Charles, is it?
Charles, yes.
Charles Allen
That's right.
of
Of Wamadoo.
Wamadoo came to Hembury,
That's our property.
right, and told Kerry and I something
He probably,
he had found a marking on his place and I must go and investigate it. Okay. On Tuesday, 16th 73, Charles Allen again came to the Pembury
Pembury.
and told Pip that he had gone to town to AYP, some initials are
I
there?
think it was possibly past Burundai station.
Right,
Not sure.
yeah.
Oh, possibly to a meeting. I would think.
AYPC meeting or something, yeah, at approximately 7 p.m.
Yes.
and about the spot where old somebody's school,
Oh, yes, old Banoon School.
the school stood. A light followed him before Barindi. Is that a property?
Yes, Burundai.
Burundai.
Mhm.
It stopped and just after Charles passed Burundai it appeared again and followed him almost to Barraba.
Yes, I can remember that distinctly.
Wow. It's quite detailed, isn't it?
And, well,
Yeah, which is good.
I'm
which
sorry
is,
you can't
which is what?
understand my writing.
No, well, I think I can read it. On Wednesday night, the 17th, October 73, 1973, an unidentified flying object was seen by several Barraba people, but when about 7:45 p.m.
To 8.
to 8:05 p.m. is it?
Yes.
Something like that? Yeah. Also by Peter Simpson from Burundi, is he?
From Banoon.
Banoon.
Oh, Peter lived actually at Burundai then.
Burundai?
Yes.
That's what it says there, right. The something family at Burundai again. All right, that's his family, okay. Another family. I won't mention these surnames
No.
because maybe just for confidentiality. Okay. Near Barandai, okay. Narrabri people where Bill, somebody, who later told Pip it must have been a plane. Something good, who until now, oh, it's a person's name, Kevin Good, who until now has been quite sceptical about flying saucers, who also says, oh, something or other, not a plane.
Yes, he
He
was
said,
quite
no,
sceptical.
definitely not a plane,
He
he
was
said,
quite sceptical about UFOs.
until now. Okay, yeah. Also, Mrs. and Mrs. Mr. and Mrs. Queen, is it?
Quinn.
A Quinn, is it? Right?
Is it Quinn?
Something like that, yeah.
Yes, Quinn.
Yeah, that's the one. Lifus, is it? Phyllis family. And
family.
Mike of something Barraba, of North Barraba, it is, who's for observed it something telescopic sight of a gun while it was stationary. It appeared to have 3 lights on, 1 on top and 2 at the, is it?
Base, probably.
2 at the base, right? 2 at the bottom, yep. Alternating. So the lights would alternate, flash on and off, right?
Yes.
I get you. Something moved off and observed to, oh, right, there's a couple of other people. Kevin and Bill or something, observed when the UFO was in motion. Right, alternating, yeah, something like that. Okay. Okay. It sped across to somewhere.
Towards the what?
Towards the something. The Humbury. Is that a property? Humbury? Right.
Could I just have a look from home, please? I'll
Yeah.
just try and help you there a bit.
Is it Humbury?
Sped across towards the west, towards Pembury, towards our place.
Pembury, okay.
Then turned and shot straight back to
Oh,
the
can
east
you read? I thought
and
you,
was
you
gone.
couldn't see the writing. Do you mind reading it for me?
No, I can read it.
I was reading, but I thought you couldn't see.
I'm not a brilliant... Oh, no, I can know it's my own writing.
Uh-huh.
On Thursday afternoon from
That's much
school
better.
bus,
Yeah.
proceeding south from Barraba, Stephen Geddes observed for 5 minutes a stationary object in the sky, shaped like a silver finger. Peeped on, David and I think this could have been a mothership. I'm sure you've heard of motherships, haven't you?
Yeah.
And the one releasing the various little ones seen like Kerry, Howard, Charles Allen, the Battleford people and the Berlin and Girondin people. Kevin Good also saw one like this, and Bill Mandel, he lives here too, and the Akers family. On Wednesday night, the 17th of October, 1973, Philip Hancock, Paul Hunt, Ken Hancock, Spiros, is it? Gekioromatis.
Right.
He took a photograph. He was a young Greek man. He
Yeah,
was here.
sounds Greek to me.
Charles Canham saw the same UFO as Kevin Good. Jeanette O'Brien also saw the UFO in the western sky on the night of the 25th of October, and Brian Hogno also saw a UFO the same night as Jeanette. Now, on the 29th of January, 1974, Kerry, that's my daughter-in-law, Kerry,
Right.
she's my son Howard's wife,
Yeah.
she reported from the news and heard on 2TN at 10 o'clock in the morning, but after also in the main news was read, a woman residing in South Tamworth sighted a silver UFO, time approximately between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. It passed from the southwest to the northeast and visible approximately 4 minutes. And on the 27th of September, I wished I brought in all those other things, 27th of September 1975, flashing lights were seen by Bernard, that's myself, at 7:15 p.m. from the front veranda. Came from over towards Lugwardine, that's where my husband's sister lived, away back and flashed every 2 to 3 seconds until it disappeared. What's this? I can't read my own writing. Oh, yes, then. And 10 or 15 minutes later, out in the east, no sound at all, and the night was very calm and cloudy, so that the flashing light was distinct and quite easy to follow with the naked eye. David and Pip also observed this and were puzzled because it was not a plane nor a satellite, being completely different in its progress to that of a satellite. Well, a satellite's so easy, isn't it? When you see a satellite, you say, oh, look at the satellite, oh, there's another one.
Yeah.
But when you see a UFO, have you ever seen one?
I've never seen one.
Never seen one.
No.
When you see one, the strange thing about it, you'll see this strange thing and you'll say, look, what's that? And you get this funny feeling will come over you, as if you're getting something off.
Almost like goosebumps or something.
Yes, we've
Yeah.
all my family get that feeling. The first one we had when we came home, and the next day when the boys had found it and told me, and I went and had a look, 1 month later, when this lot came, we came home from a meeting in town, and we had our toilet is up towards the end of the veranda.
Yep.
And I said to David, are you going to be just it? And he said, why? I said, because there's a UFO about. I can feel the electricity, and I could. And the next morning...
Oh, you felt the electricity, yeah.
Yes, Howard came up and he said, Mum, there's been another one of your things, it was called some thing, near the cowyard. So I said to David, there you are, I could sense that was loud. And it's a strange thing. When they were coming home from concerts or anything, and one of the boys would be on his bike, Donald particularly, he'd say, something followed me tonight. He said, I can come home lots of nights on the bike and sing and have no worries. But he said, tonight when I came home, he said, I had this feeling. He said, I couldn't see it, but I knew there was something following me. Pip's had the same experience.
Is that another one of your children?
Pardon?
Pip, is that another one of your children?
He's my second son.
Oh,
Pip.
okay.
Donald is my youngest and Howard is my eldest.
Right.
But you do, and you have there's a sense of knowing that they're about. I still have that feeling. I still feel there's something about. And it's a strange thing. If you go out some nights to look at the sky, you'll just see stars and perhaps a satellite. But some nights you'll go out, and that's the night when at least you'll see something go across.
Yeah.
Perhaps they're the colour of a gas flame. Some are bright, some are orange. But I can assure you, when you see it, you'll know it's not a plane. When you see a plane, you'll see the intermittent flashing light, and you'll think, oh, there goes a plane. But when you see another one, a UFO, you'll think, that's not a plane. It's totally different. It has it, and you sense it in you. There's something comes out, and I firmly believe some people are more receptive than others. So I feel that people who see them are meant to see them, and those who never see them are not receptive and won't see them. But it's a strange phenomenon.
I agree with that. Even if they're there, you can have two people standing side by side, and I think if you're not ready or, you know, you're not open to it, you won't see it anyway.
You won't see it, that's quite
I
true.
agree with that.
Yeah,
Your mind will block it out, I reckon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think too it's they have a way with them, as you've read, how you can see them, as you've just said, and other people where I can't see it, but yet you can see it. So
Yeah.
therefore you're meant to see it.
That's right.
It's
And
a
they could be
strange thing.
standing right next to you,
Yes,
and they won't see it.
They
Yeah.
won't.
I believe that.
but it's I think in life, from what I've seen, when I was in 47, I was 21. I can remember then hearing, which I told you on the telephone about, Kenneth Arnold in America. He was the first man, remember, to cite these flying saucers, as he called them.
Yeah.
And I can remember we came to a ball 2 or 3 nights later in Clifton's Hall here just next to Henry. And they had the band said, now look, there's a new song out. It's called Rumours of Flying. I can still remember that. And it went, Rumours of Flying. And of course he said, guess what? In America the other day, they saw saucers flying. So we're going to sing saucers are flying. I've always remembered that. And from that time onward, I thought of UFOs and wondered, now, what are they? And when I was about 20, or just prior to when I was getting married, it was winter, and I took our little pup for a walk up onto the tops. We lived up into the Lindsay country, high country. And I can remember I had this strange feeling that suddenly I was going to be lifted up, and I felt I was floating on top of the lucent paddock. So I remember I came and rushed home, and my mother said, "What's the matter with you?" And I said, "Oh, Mum, I had the funniest experience. I felt something was trying to lift me up, but I didn't think about UFOs then. I just thought, what was that about? It really puzzled me." And I can remember
Is this like you hadn't seen one yet?
I have, oh yes, I have now.
No, but
I hadn't then.
back
No.
then, I mean, no, you hadn't
No,
seen one yet.
I'd
right.
only heard about Kenneth Arnold
Yeah.
and his flying
Yeah,
saucers.
yeah.
But since then, we've had heaps and heaps of sightings of them in the sky. The closest we had was the one I told you about in the sky above our suns, and it was a huge silver one, shaped like that.
Yep.
And it was gleaming in the afternoon sun, the late sun,
Yep.
when it has a pink tone to it. And it was so big, and my cousin from Narrabri, my husband, myself, we saw it from where we were, and Pip and Don and Debbie and David out of the van were underneath it, up in the top country. They could hear this humming, and they were looking, saying, "What's that?" But they could not see a thing, but yet we could see the thing above them.
Yeah.
So there's heaps of things I can tell you with the angel here. I told you that on the
Can you
phone.
tell me that story again, please?
Yes,
Yeah.
you've had that. It's a white fairy floss type of thing,
Right.
and if you rub it between the fingers, it's a slightly green stain.
Like a what, sorry?
Slightly green stain.
Slightly green?
It's white when it comes down.
Right.
You rub it and it's green. But we had that analysed, and that's slightly radioactive.
Oh, okay.
And we've had strings and strings of it all over the garden, all over the house. The parrots, and Pip was coming home one night from play practice, and he said it just fell all over his car, just below our house. That is a good spot out there for them. They seem to love that area. So what else have we had? Well, we've had the thing I was telling you about when I was in bed and early hours of the morning.
Can you just tell me that one again?
Woke up,
Right.
and I thought, is that a strange noise like this? And then I said, remember how they bounce on the moon when they go to the moon?
Yeah.
Well, it was like that, up and down, up and down. And I became wet with perspiration and fear. And I tried to touch David to say, what is that? But I couldn't even speak. I was completely...
You couldn't move. Yeah. What did you see, sorry?
We didn't see a thing, we
Oh.
heard on the front veranda, you know, the big verandas on the country properties.
Yeah.
But you could hear this thing bumping up and down like somebody jumping up and down.
On the front veranda?
Yes, sort of
So
bouncing.
they were almost, you could say that was someone invisible maybe jumping.
Oh, I think it was something there, definitely.
Yeah, something
I
invisible.
think something from a UFO. But however, the next morning, I couldn't waken David up before us. He seemed to be completely immobilised too. And the next morning I said at breakfast, did anybody, the four of us just there, did anybody hear that strange noise on the front veranda last night? And Pip said, Mum, you heard it too. I said, yes, I did. I said, I was so petrified, Pip. I couldn't move, I was immobilised. But he said, Mum, I was immobilised. I tried to tell Donald, and he said, I couldn't move a finger. I said, I couldn't either, Pip. And I've read that in UFO books, how they do immobilise you. So it
Yeah, I've
frightened
read that.
me,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah.
That's
It would be a bit scary, I think.
Yes, it is a bit scary. So anyhow, that sort of upset our apple cart for a while, and we thought, oh, this is getting a little bit worrying. But since then, we've had quite a lot of sightings. We've had heaps of nights. And my sister, who didn't believe at all, she was very sceptical, didn't believe right up till she died. But she rang me up one Sunday morning and she said, could you come up? Because she said, I had an accident last night. And I said, what happened? She said, well, come and I'll tell you when you get up here. But we met Bill Graham, who lived on the next property to ours at Mayvale.
Right.
And when we got up to where she'd had this accident, he was on his horse with a mob of sheep. And he said, Mrs. Tartan David, have you seen where Betty went? That's my sister. I said, no, we haven't. He said, look, I have ridden it, and I do not know how she wasn't killed. She was going home quietly, and she wasn't a fast driver. She went up a bank about, I suppose there's the road there, up to there. She ran into a huge trunk of butt of a tree trunk, took a piece off it, and she tried to get through this fence. Now, mark you, I don't think she was the driver. I think something was in charge of her.
Right.
She ground away and put furrows that deep with her wheels, trying to get through this fence. Finally, she went through the fence and took the panel down. She turned and went up over a hill and took huge boulders out of the ground. Then she went down and she came right across the side of a cliff, turned around, and all this time all this oil is leaking out of the car. And she
What was
came,
leaking, sorry?
oil
Oh, right.
leaking out of the
Because
car.
the car had been damaged.
That's right.
Yeah.
Then she came back across the boulders and went down to a paddock, a loosened paddock, and pulled up. And that was it. Now, when I got up to her, I said, we've had a look where you've been, Bet. What happened? She said, nothing happened. I had a blowout. And she said, I just went through the fence and parked it, loosened that. And I said, but you didn't. You had a terrible trip in lots of places.
Was the tyre blown or it wasn't?
No.
No, it wasn't.
The car was very damaged underneath from the stones. She was specked about, she was bruised, she was shocked, terribly shocked.
Yep.
And poor little darling. But she could never, and when you tried to tell her where she'd gone, she became quite aggressive and she wouldn't listen to you. Now they say that happens too. People say, I did not do that. No, of course I didn't go there. But she did. And I took my brother to have a look at it later. We have friends who've been coming to stop with us.
Early 1980s, okay.
1980s, so
Yep.
this happened, this particular thing I'm about to tell you about.
Yep.
But they used to come and stop with us from the early 50s. And of course they'd come a couple of times a year and they're dear friends.
Yeah.
And he was a very religious man, very quiet man,
Yeah.
very good person. And she is also a darling person, very truthful. You could, whatever they told you, you could say, that is right.
Yeah.
So they came and brought their ports and got unpacked and were as happy as happy. And next morning couldn't understand. They went in, packed up their ports and started to say goodbye to us, and we thought,
Packed up what, sorry?
packed up their ports, their suitcases.
Right.
And we said, what's wrong? Oh, they said, look, we remembered we had an appointment in Sydney and we had to get back to it, which wasn't the case.
No.
So when they went, we thought, what had we done to offend them, knowing full well we hadn't done a thing. However, it wasn't until 3 years later, we were stopping with them at Strathfield, and she said, you know, I think it's time we told you why we left so suddenly that morning 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And we said, yes, we'd like to hear. So she said, well, we were fast asleep in bed, and about 2 o'clock, she said, would have been in the morning, we woke up to see a big ball of light coming through the Raw's door, straight through it, not opening it, and coming to the foot of our bed where it stopped. This is in our house.
It came through what kind of door, sorry?
A gauze door. Now, in the country, you have gauze windows and gauze doors.
For the flies.
Partly, yes, fly screen doors.
Yeah.
We call them gauze doors.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so it floated through that and came to rest at the foot of their bed. And we said, yes, well, what was it? Well, they said, from out of this big ball of brilliant light, suddenly 2 silver figures appeared and stood at the foot of our bed looking at us. I said, what were they like? Well, Cynthia, that was the lady's name, she said, I didn't stop to look. She said, I went straight under the blankets. Possibly you would too.
Yeah.
I possibly would.
Yeah.
Her husband, Howland, who I told you was the very quiet, gentle person, he said, Bern, I didn't bother going under the blankets. He said, I just lay on my pillow and looked back at them. And he said, they were beautiful. I said, what were they like, Alvin? Well, he said they were medium height. Everything was silver. And their faces were soft, but the most beautiful faces I've ever seen. He said, could I say almost heavenly? I said, yes. But I said, how long did you look at them for? Well, he said, I looked at them, I suppose, for 2 minutes. And he said, they didn't offer to harm us. So he said, I just lay there gently and looked back. Then he said, suddenly they came together. Suddenly the ball of light appeared around them again. And then he said they went straight off through the gauze door. And that was it. So Cynthia said, we think after all that time you were still there and nobody had taken you. We thought perhaps we'd come back. So she said, here we are.
So they still had their house, or?
Oh yes, they still had their house in Sydney. But she
No, I
meant to
mean
come
the
back
one
and
up,
stop.
the one up here.
Oh,
they were
didn't-
renting
no,
it.
they didn't have a house. They used to come and stop in our house.
Oh, that
This
was at your
happened in our
house.
home.
Oh,
So that's why she thought they'd come back. We were still safe.
it took them 3 years. They must have been terrified, I think.
Absolutely.
You would be, though, I think.
Wouldn't it?
The
What
first
would you be?
time you see them, you would be, you know. And then, I mean, if you saw them a few times, maybe
Yeah.
you would slowly get used to it, you know.
I know myself. If David has ever gone away to the wool sales, which occasionally he does when he and Donald Howard go, I hate to be there on my own. I suppose I'm a coward. But if I am there on my own and have to stop on my own, I go to bed, I leave it as late as I can, and then I leave the light on because I'm too afraid to lie there in the dark in case that light comes through the door and appears at the end of my bed. And can you understand that?
I can understand
Yes,
that it would be
it's
scary.
frightening.
It would be, yeah.
It's unnerving, and plus you get this feeling up the back of the neck as much as to say, there could be something about it, because I'm feeling uneasy. And you know you do feel uneasy about things. So that's it. But look, there's so many things that happened to us. Another time I told you on the phone,
Yep.
Howard and Donald were stopped home, they were watching telly, and after a while Don said, Howard, is that humming? He said, that's not in the telly. And Howard said, no, Don, it isn't. He said, it must be outside. So they went out onto our big front veranda and looked, and there was this great big blue light shining down onto the garden. And they watched it, and Howard said, Don, that's from a UFO. So, of course, they sped back inside and locked themselves in, which wouldn't have done them a spectacle. If they can walk through walls, they can walk through anything.
Well, it's not, yeah, but,
That's the unnerving
but
part.
that's the thing, though. But when you panic, you don't think.
You
You
don't
just think,
think.
I'll go and lock myself in my room.
Yes, and
Yeah,
they can't get me.
Yeah.
Of course, they can get you.
Yeah.
But however, we got home at 11 o'clock and they said, oh, we've had a shocking experience. And I said, what actually happened? So they told us, and we said, well, it certainly would have been a UFO. And there were 2 trees out there, so our front veranda, like that, front steps are there. And there's this big pine tree here, and a big wattle tree here. and this light was shining down like that. And not very long after, that's the steps there. That's the veranda. And this is a big pine. And now this is the pine, this is the wattle. Now after about 2 or 3 weeks they died, those trees.
Wow.
So that could be because of the
Radiation.
The radiation in the lights. Yeah.
So that was just
Streaming down this blue.
came just on those 2 trees.
Yes, just on those 2 trees.
Okay.
And they saw that and they thought, oh, whatever can it be? And they thought, well, it's a UFO. And that's what the humming is. So we conclude, sitting above that was the UFO like that. Putting this light down. But I think too, I told you of all our children, how I've had 2 daughters, Belinda, she's married and lives on the Oberon Road, not far from Bathurst, you know where that is.
I know where Bathurst is. Yeah.
She has a little boy, Tom, a little daughter, Kate. But when Tom was a baby, Belinda's husband, Stuart, had to go to work down at, what's the name of the place? Wagga Wagga. And she was left there on her own. It was a very isolated property. But one night she had this UFO and it shone its lights right in onto the little cot where Tom was. And she thought they're trying to take my baby because she knew all about them. So she got Tom and got him into bed with her and covered themselves up. And the next morning she packed up and came up here to her mum and dad for about 3 weeks because she was so afraid. Now the second daughter, Felicity, she's had lots of experiences. And from the time she was a little girl of about 4, Terry, her mother, used to sing out and say, Felicity, where are you, Felicity? And she'd find her in the bedroom like this. And she'd say, Felicity, what are you doing? And she'd say, shh, Mum, hush, I'm trying to contact UFOs. She's a funny little girl, and she's a beautiful young woman. But she definitely had contact. She used to see them in the sky. And then Kerry, her mother, she found that she was able to see them too. And they used to see a lot of them. And one afternoon they were playing a particular song, the name of which I can't remember. But they were playing this song and it sort of took them away in a time warp. And Howard, that's the father and the husband, came home and he said, what are you 2 girls up to? Do you know what the time is? They said, no, we've only been here half an hour. He said, no, at the time. And he said, do you realise above that hill there are 2 UFOs? Now we feel they were in a time warp. 2 UFOs above this mountain, and the house was down about here.
So how long do you reckon had passed instead of a half
How
an hour?
long was that? How long ago?
No, instead of half an hour, how long were the girls singing
Oh,
for?
well, they were there for about, I think, nearly 2 hours.
Yeah, so
And
they
she
had
couldn't
them.
remember a thing about it. And another time, Kerry, she woke up on the floor of the bedroom. And she had this little red mark here on her stomach.
Right.
And of course, you've read about that too.
Yeah,
haven't you?
yeah. But can you tell me what you think?
What here?
Can you tell me what you think the mark is?
Well, I think perhaps they do come along and do little experiments on them.
Yeah.
I do believe that.
Yeah.
I think, well, I must confess I've never watched the X-Files. But last week I decided it was the very last final edition, the final chapter of the X-Files. And Kerry, the one I just spoke about, she always watched it. But I thought, well now, I've never watched it, but I will see what it says. And they said the secret of the UFOs is out. Well, of course, it was to do with hybrid children.
Yeah, I've read about that.
Yes, you've read about that.
Yeah.
Plus heaps of things, and as I watched it and looked through it and thought about what they were talking about and what they were saying, I thought, well, yes, that's true. That does happen, and I'm sure it happens.
Was that on the X-Files, was it?
That was on the X-Files.
They
And
had about the hybrid children and everything.
yes, it was. That's why I wanted to watch to see. She said, what's her name there? Scully, I think she is in
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Well, she said that off a particular part of the American coastline, they had a ship, and that is where a lot of these hybrid children, be a little bit deaf, I don't hear everything, but where these hybrid babies were kept. And we had now Stan Williams, whom I think you'll meet tomorrow. He said to me many, many years ago, he was talking to a young couple in the cafe over here, and she was the daughter of a man who owned a property down near Rocky Creek where Stan lives. And he said, Bernice, do you know, when I looked at that man, he said, I have never met him before, but he said, I had a feeling he was an alien. He said, I could tell by the look of him. He was so different.
Who was this?
This was the husband of a daughter of a friend of theirs, and she lived up in Darwin somewhere.
Also, someone told me to remind you about the time, or was it you or Jean? They were having across the road, they were in a restaurant or the coffee shop,
Yes,
and a guy walked in that was a bit funny. And
that
looked a bit like
would
an
be
alien.
the one you I'm talking about.
Is
They
that?
thought he looked as if he could have been an alien.
Oh, that's the time you're talking about. Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
across the road here.
Yeah.
When there was a coffee shop across the road.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it was across here in this cafe across there.
Yeah.
But it was, and Stan said, you know, he said, I looked at him and I thought, there's something about you. You are not of us. You're different. And there's no doubt about that. I feel personally, no, I'm only an amateur, but I feel that there are heaps and heaps of aliens who are living amongst us, who look just like us, because they can make themselves look like us. They don't all look like, did you ever see Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of them do look like that.
Yeah.
And they look like embryos, don't they, really?
Yeah, very big
But-
heads, yeah.
Yes, they do. But to me, that was a fascinating picture because I have a cutting at home, and President Reagan said to Steven Spielberg when he was having a look at the viewing of it at White House.
Oh, Ronald Reagan, the
Did you read about
president?
that?
No, I can't
And
remember.
he said, isn't this remarkable? He said, I wonder how many people realise that this is true. And of course it's true. I read also that President Eisenhower, in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, he met aliens in the Californian desert. And that's chiefly what that was based on. Plus E.T., remember that dear little picture?
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the presidents said, when they always had a showing apparently at the White House first, he said, I wonder what people would say if they knew a lot of this is true. And why
Yeah.
not? Why
Well, I
can't it
think
be
a
true?
lot of people, though, aren't ready for it.
They aren't ready.
I don't think they are.
No, but yet we would be ready for it.
Well, some people are. Yeah, some people are. But the majority of people, the masses, I think would be frightened to death
I'm sure they would.
if they realised that everything was real.
See, a lot of people
Yeah.
now in the countryside, a lot of women, they're there on their own with kiddies while their husbands are away. Now, if they thought or had an experience like we have had, they'd be terrified to stay there on their own.
Yeah.
And that is why, if I'm on my own, I think, oh, I can't bear this. Next time I'm going to stop my cousin, I'm not going to stop here on my own. Because a fear is a dreadful thing, isn't it? Now,
Yeah.
I'll tell you another thing, and this has nothing to do with UFOs.
Right?
Some years ago, my husband and I were coming into church, midnight service for Christmas Eve. And you know what we saw?
No.
I'll show you what we saw. As best I can draw it. I can't draw it
I
properly.
think you draw pretty good, though.
I'll give you an idea anyhow.
Yeah.
It's big club feet. That we saw a Tasmanian tiger.
Right, where was that? Sorry?
That was about how far out of town? About 6 miles out of town. And we were just travelling along slowly. That's not like Tasmanian tiger. I
Yeah.
can draw better than that.
That's okay.
But suddenly, in front of us, from the side of the road, came this great big Tasmanian tiger. You know how when you...
Well, you were in the car, weren't you?
Yes, we're in the car.
Otherwise, you would be pretty scared. But how, was it very big?
It was big. It was full
Like a
grown.
big dog, I
Yes,
suppose?
a big one.
Yeah.
With this slopey back to it, big stripes along the back, great big head.
How long ago
big
was this?
club
When was
feet.
this?
This was in 1977, on the 24th of December. 25 years ago last Christmas Eve night. And we both sort of clutched at each other. You know how you do when you're startled and you think, what's... And I said, oh, look. I said, that's a Tasmanian, devil. And David, my husband, said, no, you mean tiger. I said, of course I mean tiger. So anyhow,
Yeah.
that's what it was. We had a good look. But you know, if you try to tell anyone, they think you're quite funny.
Well, the thing is, though, my theory is, with the UFOs, they can go back in time.
Mm-hmm.
They could go back when they were still alive
And bring them
and
here.
bring them here, yeah.
Okay, very weird. Thought of that
That's
too.
what
Donald and I have
that's
that
what I
theory.
was thinking, yeah.
Yes, and plus, what are the other things they talk about too? Animals. Oh yes, I remember many years ago, a woman in Sydney said, I saw a cobra snake. It was definitely one that had it sat up at me and this big hood came out. And I thought to myself, yes, and they can drop them wherever they like. I feel that. And that's how I feel that got there.
So this was only 6 miles out of town, was
This is
it?
about 6 to 7 miles out of town, near
Which
a
way was
property
it?
called
North-
Rosedale.
north
you know,
or south?
Straight out that Trevelyan Road towards
So
Mount
that's
Capitola.
inland, so
there.
it's west. Okay.
Apart from that, look, we've had panthers, black panthers sighted on
Well,
our
see, it's funny you
property.
should say that. They've seen those up in the Blue Mountains, just, from Sydney.
Yes,
you go
Tim
up,
the Yowie man rides around them.
you go up to Katoomba and you
Yeah.
keep going to Lithgow,
Yes.
and they've been spotted there, black panthers.
There was quite an interesting article on that by Tim the Yowie man.
Right.
And he said he even saw the big scratch marks. Plus he found a Tasmanian deer up there too last year. A
Where
dead
was this,
one,
sorry?
Up in the Blue Mountains, which you were just talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Well,
From Katoomba to Lithgow, they reckon they've seen those black panthers.
yeah.
Hmm.
And heaps of them, they say, up towards Emmaville, Armadale, all that country. Our country, we had 3 young people came to us one night and they said,